So it's sad up there. We're furnishing the rear for the rear kicking every time an amendment comes up, and we're sending up amendments. We send them up a lot of amendments for them to have to vote against. And I think they're setting a bad stage for themselves for this next election. I'm not sure it's going to be a good enough stage because the blue dogs aren't as blue dogs used to be. You know, blue dogs used to be yellow dogs that had been squeezed till they were blue. And these guys haven't really been squeezed that much. And they go into the speaker don't ever sell her short because she's very intelligent, she's educated, she's wealthy beyond anybody's dreams. She supports new Democrats, she and her husband, and that's the way she got the minority ranking there, minority leader. She beat a guy that had been running for it for the last 4 or 5 years in Steny Hoyer, and he should have had it. Be a lot easier to deal with than she is. But she's the Speaker of the House, and she is very strong, very capable, and is very determined. And they're afraid of her. She weighs 90 pounds, and they're scared to death of her, and they have reason to be. What was their very first action when she was elected Speaker? She got rid of Jane Harman, pulled her off of intelligence, and she was good on intelligence. Oh, she worked okay some with the Republicans some and with President Bush, but she knew intelligence, and she was a good member, and she's an intelligent lady. And a fellow Californian, you'd think that she'd be promoting her and pushing her. Very first thing she did, she knocked her off of that, called her and informed her that she'd no longer be head of intelligence. Now, she didn't tell me this, but she told someone else. They asked her why she did it, and she said, well, 4 years ago she ran for governor of California, spent $34 million of her own money, and ran third in a primary. Do you think anybody like that ought to be on intelligence? That's a pretty good statement to make, and that's what actually did happen. She did make a race for governor and spent her own money, ran poorly. The guy next to her, though, that ran second, spent about $50 million of his own money, and the guy that got elected had to have write-ins. He had to have money, people signed for him to where he didn't have to pay to get on the ticket, and then they impeached him, if you remember, a little bit later. And now we got that guy that's married to the Kennedys that's supposed to be a Republican, but he's got California 25 or 30 billion in debt, and they're begging us now to bail them out. They don't want any energy in their ports. They don't want it on their trains, but they want, by golly, when they hit that switch over there, they want to let there be light. And I'd be in favor. I'm not in favor of going as far as the governor said of just pulling out. You know, we have a right to divide ourselves into 5 states or doing anything like that, but I wouldn't mind shutting them off of our energy, you know, so you guys go for it yourself. Whatever energy you have, go ahead. We'll keep ours right here in Texas, but that wouldn't be the American way. But that's the things that I want to do every now and then. That's when I'm not thinking good. But let me read you something here. And you know, how many of you guys had letters from you? I've been having letters for 50 years from ARP for me to join. Now, did y'all have that same experience? And the main insult I got the other day, the scooter people called me and said they could get me a scooter. I just want to tell them, our chairman read something. I want to read something to you here about people and about folks with some age on them. This one said that an elderly Florida lady did her shopping and upon returning to her car found 4 males in the act of leaving with her vehicle. She dropped her shopping bags and drew her handgun, and she had a right to carry, proceeded to scream at the top of her lungs, "I have a gun and I know how to use it. Get out of the car, I'll shoot you." The 4 men didn't wait for a second threat. They got out and ran like mad. The lady, somewhat shaken, then proceeded to load her things and her bags into the car, got into the driver's seat. She was so shaken she could not get her keys into the ignition. She tried and tried, and then she realized why. It was for the same reason she had wondered why there was a football, a frisbee, and 2 packs of beer in the front seat. A few minutes later, she found her own car parked about 4 or 5 spaces further down. She loaded her bags into the car and drove to the police station to report her mistake. The sergeant to whom she told the story couldn't stop laughing. He pointed to the other end of the counter where 4 pale men were reporting a carjacking by mad elderly woman described as white, less than 5 feet tall, glasses, curly white hair, and carrying a large handgun. No charges were filed, and it says, if you're going to have a senior moment, make it memorable. And I guess that was pretty memorable for her. But those are things that happen. And I had this sent to me. You know, I have an undertaker there. It's a good friend of mine. When I was in the Texas Senate, he was my intern, and I took him down there with me. He was so smart and so bright even then. 3 weeks later, the lieutenant governor took him away from me. His name's Dwayne Kane. He has a funeral home there now. And he meets me at the airport every day with a tape measure because I'm 86 years old. I'm the oldest guy up there, you know, and he says for me not to worry about flowers because they're going to finally grow on me, you know. But he sent this to me and said an old country preacher had a teenage son, and it was getting time the boy should give some thought to choosing a profession. Like many young men his age, the boy didn't really know what he wanted to do, and he didn't seem to be concerned about it. One day while the boy was away at school, his father decided to try an experiment. He went into the boy's room and placed on his study table 4 objects. First, of course, a Bible. Second, a silver dollar. Third, a bottle of whiskey. Fourth, a Playboy magazine. I'll just hide behind the door, the old preacher said to himself. When he comes from school today, I'll see which object he picks up. If it's the Bible, he's going to be a preacher like me, and what a blessing that would be. If he picks up the dollar, he's going to be a businessman. That'd be okay, too. But if he picks up the bottle, he's going to be a no-good drunken bum, and Lord, what a shame that would be. And worst of all, if he picks up that magazine, he's going to be a skirt-chasing womanizer. The old man waited anxiously and soon heard his son's footsteps as he entered the house and whistling and heading for his room. The boy tossed his books on the bed, and as he turned to leave the room, he spotted the objects on the table. With curiosity in his eye, he walked over to inspect them. Finally, he picked up the Bible and placed it under his arm. He picked up the silver dollar and dropped it into his pocket. He uncorked the bottle and took a big drink while he admired this month's centerfold. Lord have mercy, the old preacher disgustingly whispered he's going to run for Congress. And you men, be careful what you say on your deathbed, because I saw something the other day that a guy was on his deathbed and he called his wife over and knew he was about to die. He said, baby, if you die in less than 30 days, I hope you'll marry Bob. She said, I thought you hated Bob. He said, I do. And we got to be sensible, you know, about immigration. We got to be sensible about certainly the bailouts. That was outrageous. And we've got to be sensible about health. We've got to be sensible about everything. And a lot of times we can look at our kids for things to be sensible about. Well, I've seen fathers put in their place. One father was arguing with his son who was sitting there studying, but he's reading his book. He's reading a magazine at the same time. He was watching the television. He's listening to radio at the same time. And he was working a puzzle at the same time and just studying when he wanted to. And his dad said, you ought to really study. You got good electric lights here. Said, when Lincoln was your age, he had to study by the fireside. He said, yeah, Dad, when he's your age, he's president. Another, the little boy lost his dog. His dog died, and he was sad and really upset about it. And his mother said, don't worry about it, son. We're going to send God up. We're going to send the dog up to God, and he'll be with God. And the boy said, Mama, use your common sense. What on earth Dad want with a dead dog? Let me talk about something that's not a dead dog, though, and I'm going to talk about the health bill. It's not the worst thing that ever hit the Congress. I think the bailouts are the worst because they endanger future youngsters and endanger their lives, and they set us up to be a second-class world leader because of the $800 billion right off the rack there. Now, I can't really say and know that I'm telling the truth, and I said the same thing to George Bush. I can't say that what you did didn't maybe save this country from a major collapse. It may have. I don't think so. and I didn't think so. But if I thought it was about to, I still would have wanted to get $800 billion to throw out among those people that had been unsuccessful with their own money in their own business, and what were they going to do with our money in their own business after they'd failed. So it was a tough thing for me. It's hard for me to tell George Bush no, because I admire George Bush. I like George. I've known him forever and ever.